On the morning of December 16, in the year 2000, Jerry Michael Williams went on a duck hunting trip. He went to Lake Seminole, which is about 100 kilometers away from his home in Tallahassee. The plan was to go for a hunting trip in the morning and then come back to celebrate his anniversary with his wife Denise Williams later in the evening. However, Mike Williams never returned from his trip. A search party was sent out and Mike's Ford Bronco was found near the lake. The next day, his boat was found in the water. The search continued for weeks, but there was no sign of Mike. The general consensus was that it was likely some sort of boating accident. Some even theorized that Mike may have been eaten by alligators. Regardless, the case had gone cold. Before continuing, it's important to note that Mike Williams had met Denise in high school. They were friends with another young couple, Denise Winchester and Katherine Thomas. As a group of four, they would go out to watch movies together, eat together, and go on double dates often. They were young, in love, and enjoying life. Years down the line after college, the couples get married and they even have their first child around the same time. Mike is now making approximately $200,000 USD annually in a successful real estate career. However, his marriage with Denise is not going well. She has complaints of him working too much and she no longer feels attracted to him. In the Winchester household, there is a similar story. Brian and Katherine are not getting along. During one night, the two couples were out and engaging in friendly banter. Denise and Brian start developing an attraction for one another. This resulted in the two meeting in hotels, taking trips together, and everything in between. This was all done in secrecy, and on paper, Denise was still married to Mike, while Brian was still married to Katherine. This continued for years, and Denise now wanted Brian as her husband. But there was one problem. Denise was raised in a very traditional family, and appearances meant the world to her. Therefore, a divorce with Mike was out of the question. She also did not want to go through the hassle of sharing custody of their child. Denise and Brian discussed how they could make things work. They came up with the idea to kill Mike, but have it look like an accident. Mike and Brian already went on hunting trips together, where they would be completely alone on a boat. So it was very plausible to carry out the act during one of these trips and make it look like a boating accident. The plan was for Brian to take Mike into a deep part of the lake and then push Mike off while Mike had his waders on. This plan satisfied Denise because it meant that Mike would likely drown, but he at least had a chance to survive. If they were going to do this, it would also make sense to think about life insurance. After all, Brian happened to sell life insurance policies as part of his job. Mike already had 2 life insurance policies totaling $750,000. With help convincing Mike from Denise, Brian signed Mike up for an additional $1 million policy. The 3 policies totaled $1.75 million, and the sole beneficiary was Denise Williams. 5 years after Mike's mysterious disappearance, Denise Williams and Brian Winchester get married. This raises suspicion. Law enforcement had asked Denise about Brian immediately after Mike's disappearance, but Denise said that Brian was definitely not responsible. Denise asserted that Brian was gentle and was not even capable of such a horrific act. Law enforcement dig a little deeper and find that Denise filed the life insurance claim for the $1.75 million 19 days after Mike went missing, while the search was still active. Despite these suspicions, there is no way for detectives to move forward. Denise does not agree to questioning without her lawyer present and avoids detectives. Denise did very well to avoid law enforcement for years, until August 5 of 2016, which is approximately 16 years after Mike's death. This is Denise Williams. In a remarkable turn of events, she voluntarily came to the police. She says that earlier in the morning, she got in her car to go to work and Brian was hiding in the back seat and waiting for her with a gun. What we are about to witness is one of the most intriguing interrogations available in the public domain. These interrogation rooms have the capability to broadcast footage live. In another room, all of the investigators that have been involved with the disappearance of Mike Williams are watching Denise's every move because they are intrigued to uncover why she is finally choosing to interact with them.
You hot in here? Alright. Usually get stuffy in here, so I'm trying to air down.
I know Mike Phillips real well. Does he work here?
Mike Phillips led an investigation into the disappearance of Mike Williams 16 years ago. Denise asks this question to inquire if she may be asked about the disappearance of her ex-husband. The officer, while fully aware of who Mike Phillips is and his prior investigation, will act like he has no idea who Denise is talking about.
Mike Phillips.
Or is he not sure? I always get like confused.
It was a Ted Phillips. Alright, what's your name?
Denise.
Just give me a rundown on what happened today.
We're almost in the 4th year of our separation and divorce. I'll just tell you about what happened today. Okay. So I go out to my car to go to work. I work at FSU. I was calling my sister, and this person starts climbing out of the very back, and I couldn't tell at first who it was, but then immediately I knew who it was, but I was screaming in the phone, help me. I didn't know if she had picked up there or not. So I was screaming, help me, and then he grabbed the phone. So I don't know if he turned it off. I don't know how. I never saw the phone again. But he was up and grabbing me, and he pulled my face pretty hard, and he goes, he's cussing, you will turn here, you will turn here, blah, 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 and I kept going straight. So then he goes, I'm going to effing hurt you if you don't, you turn here. And I kept going straight again. And I turned around and I go, what do you mean hurt me? And he pulled out a gun, like a gun, not a hunting gun, but like a gun he would kill someone with. And he put it right here in my ribs. He put it right here. And he goes, with this. And he pressed it in there. You will turn. Well, I kept, in my head, I was like, I'm making it to CVS because that's our CVS. And I was just like, I'm making it to CVS. So he put it right there. He was screaming, and so I didn't know if I should go in the ditch. Like, I didn't know what to do, and but I kept driving. So anyway,
where was he when this happened?
Where was he?
Did he climb?
Yeah, he was over. Yeah, he climbed out from the back. It's two, and then a back, and then the seat, and then a back. So he was in the back, I guess, hiding. And then when he came out, he came up to right behind me. So like I'm driving, and he's right here, and then the gun's right here. So he's right here.
Did you see what the gun looked like? Like what color it was, or?
I mean, it was dark, but it was like a handgun, I guess.
Okay.
But it was dark.
So dark colored?
Yeah. But anyway, so then I pulled into CVS, and he was like, turn here, because CVS has like back parking, and he took the wheel and was trying to force it to turn, and I don't know how, but I just like took the wheel back. I mean, the fact that we didn't wreck was unbelievable. And I took it back, and I parked right at the front door in the spot that was right against the grass. So like the camera's right there. Like I knew, because I go there all the time, that there are cameras there. So I parked right there at the front. And so we pulled in, and he said, and he kept saying, I just want to talk to you, because he's been emailing me, texting me. I blocked him off everything, trying to get me to stop the divorce. I just want to talk to you. And I turned around and I go, I will talk to you from right here, because he was trying to get me to move the car. I will talk to you from right here, and that's it.
So he wanted you to get in the back with him?
Yeah, so then he wanted me to get in the back, and I said, no, I'll sit in this seat, and I was in the driver's seat the whole time. And so he was mad, but he held on to the seatbelt, because I had already buckled myself in from the beginning. And so he held on to the red buckle right here. So he's like in this seat, but he's leaned forward, holding the seatbelt together so I can't get out, because I had pictured that I was going to just get out and go running, screaming into CVS. That's what I thought in my head. But he held me, and I couldn't. I'm not sure where the gun was at that point, but he was holding it tight. And then he locked the doors. And then I said, I'll talk to you from right here. Well, he held the seatbelt for quite a while as he's screaming, and I'm just like shaking, and he's telling me to stop crying, that people are going to notice, because people were coming in and out the whole time. And one lady, she looked at me, and I was just like, I was going to say help, but then I was too scared. So he kept holding it. Well, finally, he just kept saying, I just want to talk to you. Talk to me. I just want to talk to you. So then I was just like, what do you want to talk about? I want to talk about the divorce, blah, blah. And so as he started talking and asking me to call the divorce off, he eased back, and he ended up sitting in that seat, the one like right here.
The one next to you?
And he let go. No, he stayed in the seat behind. So he was in this seat, and I was right here, so I could turn and see him. And he held the gun the whole time.
So he was on the passenger side? Okay.
The back passenger, and he held the gun between his legs the whole time. So that's why I didn't want to yell to the lady or anything, because it was right there. We were probably there, for like, it felt, maybe 45 minutes to an hour. So if their cameras do work, they'll see the whole thing. And so he said, I've lost my son, I've lost you, I have nothing to live for. And I was like, well, Brian, you're the only one who can change. This is a side note, but his son left him because the son is 17 now, went through his phone, Brian's phone, and found out that he's been seeing prostitutes. They found the website. They know the girls have been in the house where my stepson was living.
Take note of the fact that Denise is under extreme duress during this moment, not only because of what just happened that morning, but because she has been deliberately avoiding law enforcement for the last 16 years. Coming to the police station was no easy decision for Denise, but her fear of death on this day trumped her fear of getting caught for the disappearance of her ex-husband. Denise has already demonstrated to us her ability to act rationally under pressure through her narration of how she managed to drive to a public area where she knows there are security cameras despite being threatened with her life. Now, she is strategically setting up the degradation of Brian's character to sway law enforcement into siding with her.
And that they've been doing drugs, because there's a text about drugs back and forth. And Stafford, my stepson, took pictures of all the texts from Brian's phone. He took pictures of everything he found in the house. So that's all, we have proof of all that. And so I just kept saying, you've got to stop living that way. You've got, you could get us all back if you'll just turn your life around, because he was a Christian at one point. And I was like, if you'll just turn back to the Lord. So the whole time I'm turned this way, I'm buckled in, but he's calm, he's calming down. I said, let's go to your dad's office and talk to him. I said, I don't want you arrested. I just want to get past this. This can be your rock bottom. So I ended up convincing him, we're gonna talk to your dad. We're gonna get through this. We, and I kept saying we. He called his dad, put his dad on speaker, and I didn't yell out because the gun was right there. But he said, what are you doing? And he said, I'm going to a meeting at 11. And Brian said, well, call me when you get out. I need to talk to you. And he said, okay. So I didn't yell out. I didn't say anything. And he hung up. And I said, Brian, let me go to work. Let me go to work, show my face. People are going to wonder where I'm at. You call me at work, and then I'll come out and meet with you and your dad. I will not call the police. I promise. I promised a million times that I wouldn't call the police. So then he went from the seat to the back row and put his knees there and started pulling stuff out of the back and shoving it into a backpack. And I saw sheets, I want to say plastic. Maybe it was plastic. I don't know, but it was maybe a sheet and a plastic something. I don't know, but it was fabric looking. And he shoved all that in the backpack. Then he had a bottle, which it was like, those old timey bleach bottles that are like white with the sprayer thing. A huge one.
It was like a spray thing?
Yeah. He had that, put that in the backpack, and then something else. And when I saw the bleach, I was like, oh my God, like I just kind of lost, in my head, I kind of lost it. And so it was something else, like a tool or something, not a hammer, but something like that. I don't know. And then he shoved that in the backpack, and I said, Brian, where's the gun? I don't want the gun anywhere near me. Where's the gun? It's right here. It was on the floor at that point, I guess because he knocked it or something, I don't know. But he picked it up, and he put it in the backpack, and he zipped the backpack up. And then he opened up a little zipper of the front backpack, took his keys out, and then he starts crying. What have I done? What have I done? It's too late for us. And I know it's not. I'll just let me go to work, and I'll meet you later. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I know. And then he opened the door himself, and I never turned the car off or anything when we read that part. And he got out, and he shut the door, and he said, I'm so sorry, and was crying. And I said, I know. And he turned right to head north. And then I went on. So
Denise has just described a fairly simple case of armed kidnapping. If the surveillance footage is congruent with her story, it would be a relatively straightforward process to convict Brian of an armed kidnapping felony, of which the minimum term of imprisonment is 10 years in the state of Florida. What's fascinating is the audacity of Denise to voluntarily attempt to imprison Brian, despite knowing that Brian could retaliate and confess to Denise's involvement in Mike's disappearance 16 years ago. Denise's arrogance is leading her to believe that she could get away with anything because she successfully got away with a marital affair, a murder, life insurance claims fraud, and now she's taking it one step further.
And supposedly he was going to his office.
Where's his office at?
But all he wanted was to talk to me, for me to call the divorce off. And intermittently he would say he was going to kill himself. A lot he said that. Because I was like, are you planning on ending both of our lives? Like as he got calmer at CBS, I said, are you planning on, ending both of our lives today? Well, mine. I'm planning on mine. And then he would say, I want to kill myself. He must have said a million times, I want to kill myself. I've lost everything. I reached back a couple of times at CVS and would like touch his knee. Like when I could tell that he was getting calmer, I was like, I know. Like, so the video will probably show that. I mean, if there is one. I'm trying to think of anything else. He said he was going to kill himself. I didn't know if I didn't plan on coming here because I wanted to follow through with what I said. I wanted to talk with Marcus. Brian also promised he would tell his dad everything and he would go away to rehab. He's supposedly being treated for sex addiction. So he said he would go away to rehab. I was going to follow through with that because this is going to make him really mad. And so I called Deborah, my sister made me call her husband, who's a policeman. And he said, you have to turn him in. But I've already told you everything, but I still don't know if it's the right thing to do because it's going to make him so mad. And then you guys, I can't have a 24-hour policeman with me. And he's going to, wherever, if he gets arrested, if he doesn't, he's going to be free at some point. I have a daughter. It's not his daughter, but I don't know.
All right. Give me 1 second to step out to see if I need anything else. Do you need anything right now? Or?
No, I'm thinking no, there's anything else.
Okay. My first suggestion, one of the things that comes to mind right now is when we finish here, there's still some things that have to be done. File for an injunction. I'll accompany you. We'll go to the courthouse and you can file for an injunction. Okay?
I'm just going to make notes in my phone.
Absolutely. Here, I feel like I can, whichever you prefer. So most people use their phones nowadays, but sometimes it's helpful to write it down and you want a piece of paper.
What does that mean, file an injunction?
An injunction is an order of protection. It's like a restraining order, and it's going to prohibit him from having any contact with you.
The process of filing for an injunction against Brian is described in detail to Denise. Things are going well for Denise from her perspective. Everyone she is speaking to seems sympathetic and helpful. This is helping to lower Denise's guard to set up a confrontation with detectives about the disappearance of Mike Williams. If the confrontation comes as a surprise to Denise, her response may be easier to assess in comparison to a prepared rebuttal.
If it did get approved today, would he be served today?
If they can locate him,
Okay.
absolutely. It would be a priority,
Okay.
yes, to as soon as possible.
Okay.
That's the goal there. Because it'll go into effect immediately once he's served with those papers. Any contact from there is going to be a violation of that injunction that you can report and he can be charged with, depending, of course, the follow up there. But that injunction is going to work to protect you. It's going to, no contact by phone, email, certainly not in person, no third party contact, nothing of that.
The victim advocate gives more advice on steps Denise can take to stay safe and the availability of a safe shelter if she were to ever need it.
Well, let me step out and see if Detective saw anything.
They mentioned anything to you about processing your vehicle where this all occurred?
What does that mean?
That evidence where, we can put it together to, in
And
addition.
my car's right out front.
Right. What I need from you, I just need your okay to do that is all. Yes, ma'am.
that's fine.
Processing the car is standard procedure, and it refers to collecting any relevant evidence from the car, such as DNA evidence, to prove that Brian was there. Even though the police are planning to obtain as much information as possible about what happened to Mike, they still must abide by protocol to make sure Denise's allegation is adequately addressed. At this point, the police know everything they need to know about the kidnapping incident. The only reason they are still questioning Denise is because they want to transition the conversation to discussing Mike Williams.
All right. Not to be redundant, but I'm going to try and go through the story again and just try and get a little more detail on everything. So, car in general, do you usually lock it at night? Do you keep it unlocked?
Yeah, I usually lock it.
Did you lock it last night?
I thought I did.
The detective goes through Denise's timeline of what happened earlier in the morning again. They are only doing this to establish further rapport and to build Denise's confidence that they are primarily concerned with the kidnapping.
With his dad calling you saying that's odd, would you be willing to do a control call to his dad to see if his dad says anything? Or to Brian himself?
Denise will reject the idea of doing a controlled call with Brian or Brian's father, Marcus, because she's afraid that information related to Mike may be exposed during the phone call.
Oh my gosh. Brian's going to ask me immediately, where are you? Why are you not at work? So, and then his dad, I don't know. I mean, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not going to say I'm at the sheriff's department.
All right. Well, as far as anybody asking where you're at, all you got to do is tell them you had to go somewhere by yourself and think.
Yeah. I really don't want to make contact with him. I mean, unless y'all think that it's necessary.
It would be rare to see the victim oppose a reasonable suggestion by law enforcement to further the investigation if the victim had nothing to hide. This is because there is no downside to a controlled call, but the obvious upside is to corroborate Denise's story. This could be used for Denise's benefit if Brian pleads not guilty to Denise's kidnapping accusation. The detectives notice Denise's unusual reasoning immediately, and this just furthers their suspicion of Denise.
Well, it's your option. If he told his dad what took place, and his dad is checking on you and expresses he explained it to him or whatever, then we've got that information that he's told somebody else. If he winds up sitting here having a conversation with you about it, that's just more evidence per se that corroborating your story about what took place.
I think Marcus is calling me just to set a conversation up because Brian really didn't want to tell his dad the details. He wanted to tell him that he reached rock bottom, stuff like that, but he didn't want to tell him the details because his dad is so upset about the mom, and he kept bringing that up, that they are going through that, so he didn't want to tell his dad. So I don't think calling his dad, I'm probably 100% sure he didn't tell him all the details. So it's not like Marcus would repeat them all back to me, because it was going to take me going there and me basically making him do it. And the reason he would do that is because he would think I would call the divorce off and we would get back together in the end. Him calling me, he's just going to be, where are you? What are you doing? He's going to want to set up that meeting with Marcus. Oh my God, I don't know, because I don't want to make him more mad before he even finds out. You know what I'm saying? And the point would be to try to get him to say stuff like.
And to find out where he is. If he would wind up telling you, want to meet you prior to going there, and we could try to have people in that area whenever he arrives, not somewhere necessarily that he's at it that second, but even if he did pull off to the side of the road and said, I'm at Capitol Circle, I'm pulling into the CVS, anything like that would give us an idea of where his location is, because FSU police already have the information, and we've got the information out. Our thing now is to locate him, check on his welfare. As you said, it would just be beneficial to locate him.
Do you know, I mean, have y'all checked him at his work in the parking lot to see if he's there?
We've got people checking.
Because I think that's where he's at.
Well, just think about it.
I'll think about it.
You can take a few minutes, and
okay.
But one of our biggest goals is to be able to locate him.
Right. Well, and find out, if you can find out from those people if his truck is at work, because that's what I'm thinking. I'm really thinking that is there.
The detective's strategy is to bring in Officer David McCraney next. He happens to be Denise's brother-in-law, which makes him able to play the role of good cop effectively. His role is very nuanced in that he is there to make Denise feel protected while simultaneously highlighting how substantial of a threat Brian is to her safety. This is done in an attempt to get Denise to talk about Mike. Officer McCraney will make the argument that Brian is a threat and this kidnapping incident is not enough to put him away for good. But if Denise talks about what he did to Mike, Brian could be in prison for life.
Okay.
All right.
Yeah, I've told this story a million times.
All right, tell it a few more times. When did he pull out back of the car this morning? I know you told them, but you told me a little bit.
When he was leaving. Yeah, I didn't know anything was back there. And he got his knees into that seat and started pulling stuff out. And
in the very back?
That's where he was hiding. And so he pulled the backpack. It was loose stuff, like he pulled, you know what, he might have slept there last night and that's why she was there. I don't know how he had been there. But he pulled out a sheet that was like this color. And then he pulled out something else because it was heavy. So that's why I think it was some type of plastic. I'm pretty sure it was. Pulled all that out, shoved all that in this backpack, and then pulled something else out. And again, I don't know what it was. It was bigger than a hammer, wider than a hammer, but I don't know what it was. Put that in there, and then there was this bottle, like this big of like industrial bleach, like a bottle, and he pulled that out and put that in there. And then when he turned around and sat down, I said, "Where's the gun?" Because he was about to get out. And he goes, "Right here," and it was on the floor. And he picked it up, put that on top, and then zipped it up. And then unzipped a little tiny pocket that I could see that was right here and got his keys out.
He told you he was there to kill himself this morning.
He told me that he had nothing else to live for and that he wanted to kill himself. He told me that many times. He told me he bought the gun to kill himself because I said, "Where did you get this gun?" Because I've never seen a gun that you would kill people with. He's just got the hunting guns. And he said, "I bought it to kill myself."
What do you think he brought all the other stuff for?
I have no idea. Because at one point I asked him, I said, "Did you really plan on today being the day that you would both die?" And he said, "Well, me." But then when I saw that other stuff, that doesn't make sense. So I don't know. That's what he said.
Denise, he was going to kill you. And for whatever reason, he didn't go through with it. He brought that stuff because he could cover his tracks. And I'm sorry. You know that I love you. And I would never let anything happen to you. But I'm not going to sit here and sugarcoat stuff. You did the right thing by calling me. But Denise, he was going to kill you.
Well, then when he finds out after 4 o'clock that there's a restraining order, he's going to know that I told him he's going to come for me.
Well, hopefully he'll kill himself and won't have to worry about it. Okay? He's had control over you for years and years and years. He has ruined your life. You and Deborah are the same age, but y'all sure don't look it. It has eaten at you and eaten at you. And I couldn't say anything. I talked to Warren one time and said, "We need to talk to Denise," and he wouldn't do it. He said, "I'm just glad she didn't go crazy." Okay, but you've been living in a crazy life forever. And you finally had enough to get out. I know, Denise. He did it. And you know exactly what I'm talking about. I don't think you had anything ever whatsoever to do. But he held that over your head forever. And he was going to do it again. He wasn't going to kill himself, Denise. He was going to kill you so that you couldn't talk about him later. That is the truth. I've been in this too long. I've talked to everybody I know over the years for 15 years about how and what we could do.
Oh my God.
15 years ago, he walked in and told you he had done something. Didn't he?
No.
Denise,
No.
you have got, this is not going away. Okay, he's going to kill you. He's either going to kill himself because he's got no other avenue, but he's going to try and control you. He's going to try and stop people from talking about what he did. He didn't bring that crap to kill himself and bury himself. He brought it to kill you and bury you and get rid of the problem because he knows he's got a problem.
He didn't say any of that.
This is not how divorces go. What did he ever say to you back then?
Back then about Mike?
About Mike?
I never had any reason to believe that he would do that. I never would have believed.
Knowing what do you remember the time you went to Atlanta when you had a boyfriend up there and he showed up with a gun?
Yeah.
What makes you think he wouldn't do something like that?
I guess because, not now, but and obviously he loves the Lord. He was a Christian. That's why I married him. He was doing prison ministry. I was doing prison ministry. I had no reason, and I've never seen him like this. I've never seen him like
You
this.
saw him this way 14 years ago in Atlanta.
Not like this. This
I
was
understand.
different. This was very different.
All right.
This took it to
No.
a whole nother.
Knowing what you know over 15 years, do you think he would do something like knowing what you know now? Because it took me a long time to wrap my eyes. I said, no.
I don't,
Knowing what you know now.
even after today, even after everything that he said to me today, I do not believe, no, I don't. And I don't believe he was there to hurt me. He said over and over, I want to kill myself. I don't want to leave. I'm so miserable. I have nothing to live for.
He's brought plastic, an implement to bury you, and you think he wouldn't hurt you?
I guess I can't believe it.
That was
And he
hard.
didn't say, I mean, he had the gun on me, but he didn't say, well, he said he was going to hurt me.
Right.
He did say that. He screamed that. Yeah.
We can't put it back in the bottle.
No.
Okay, and there's no amount of counseling that's going to help him. He was never normal. He's never going to return to whatever he was. The only thing that's going to work now is you testify, and he goes to prison, and he goes to prison for a lengthy period of time, and maybe it's 5, 10, 15 years, but at some point, he may get back out. Okay, if he kills himself, well, problem solved. But you can't, I believe he had something to do with Mike. I absolutely believe it.
I do not, but this, what you're talking about, has nothing to do with tonight.
The way Denise is protecting Brian in this way is what makes this interrogation so fascinating. Her ideal outcome is Brian going to jail, but only for the kidnapping. She does not want Brian to be punished for Mike's murder because she's afraid she will get dragged into it because Brian would likely confess to her role. But prison is prison, and one would think it would be a fairly misguided move to attempt imprisoning someone who shares your dark secret. The risk is obvious, but Denise, while having demonstrated the ability to think quickly on her feet, has questionable logic.
Tonight is what I'm worried about. When I go file this
It's the culmination of
thing,
everything.
he's going to know.
Well, he's going to know no matter what, because he's going to jail today if we find him. Until we find him, you think you're in danger?
Yeah.
You think Hansie's in danger?
Yeah.
You think Johnny's in danger?
I don't know, but Stafford and me and Ansley, yeah.
How come?
Because he's driving around with a gun.
He only wants to hurt himself. It wouldn't hurt any of them, would he?
He wants me to stop the divorce. That's what he kept saying. I have nothing to live for if you fall through with this. I have nothing to live for.
But it's not like you're going to get back together.
Well, that's what he wants. And that's pretty much what I didn't say that, but I pretty much had to say, we'll meet with Marcus. I didn't say at the beginning, I said, this could be your rock bottom. This could be, all that. I said all that. I didn't say I would call it the divorce.
I believe you know enough about. He said something, he alluded to something. Why not, with his money and his youth, move on to something else? What is so important about keeping Denise?
Which he has. Because
I think he's afraid you're going to
prostitutes.
say something that he has said in the past. And this, by being married to you, is the only way he can keep control of that. Even if it's a little something. He has said something to you, Denise, at some point about.
Well, then I would really have to. Think about it. He is threatened. I stayed with him so long before we separated because he would threaten suicide all the time, and he knew that would get me, and it got me every time. So he's been threatening suicide for over 5 years. I think people that threaten suicide don't do it. So I don't think he's going to do it. If he would have done it today, if he was
He
going to
wasn't
do
there
it.
to kill himself today. Denise.
I can't accept
Ansley would have
that.
had no mother and no father.
I just can't.
What do you think he was there to do?
What he said, which was he wants to talk me out of the divorce. That's what he kept saying, screaming.
He was not there to kill himself. The threat to kill myself was to get you to do what he wanted you to do. He's so crazy that he believed you. He believed you wouldn't tell anybody that he kidnapped you.
I promised him.
I know.
Many
That's
times.
how crazy he is. Are you kidding me? You say anything, you did it right. You handled it perfectly. You should never do what he says. Fight for your life.
I
You
was
go to a
praying
public
the whole
place,
time.
and you got him to calm down.
There. But I'm scared to death for tonight.
You stay with us. He doesn't know
And
where I live.
there's a lady that said we were going to file a restraining order today, but I don't even know what time it is. I don't know if we were. It's almost 3. I don't know how long that takes. I don't know that
It doesn't
process.
take long. It'll be easy to do.
Do you think that I'll get it?
Yeah, you'll get it. But it's a piece of paper.
I know. And then then they go show him.
They're gonna arrest him for kidnapping this morning.
And that's going to be the
Okay.
charge.
And
When-
well, I don't know that. I don't know all the details. All I get is that little bit you gave me. And from what you told me, that's what it sounds like. It could be something a little bit different.
I don't know.
But it's domestic, so it's going to be very serious from a judge. He's not going to get out anytime in the next day or two to see a judge. But at some point, we got to bank on he is going to get out.
Yeah, I know, and that's why I didn't want to come.
What other choice do you have?
I guess I was hoping Marcus was going to solve it all.
Marcus got so much on his plate. Just like I say, if he's already cut him off, then maybe he finally realizes that it's time to quit helping him.
But I need to tell my attorney what happened today. She doesn't know. But yeah. So finish that sentence. You said so he will probably get arrested and then he'll get out in a couple days. Then what?
They'll end up. The state attorney will file the charges against him for whatever they end up the charge is, and then it'll drag out for some time. It won't be quick.
Oh, right. But during all that time, what about me? What about Ansley?
That's right. And that's why you have to go through with it. They may do electronic monitoring on him. I mean, they may put a big enough bond, but he's never been in trouble.
No.
They may put a bond. A bond just means a promise to show up at court. It doesn't mean that I can't go out and kill you.
Right.
Okay?
Again,
The fact that you listened or didn't listen to him and drove to the CVS probably saved your life. If you'd gone where you wanted to go and there was no one around, I don't think you could have talked him out of it.
it was just in
And
my
they shot you
head.
and buried you somewhere, and you would have never been found.
It was just in my head to get to CVS. I was like, I had to get to CVS. It was so weird.
To me, him bringing those things, hiding in the car,
Mm-hmm.
directing you,
Mm-hmm.
he had it thought out.
Obviously.
Okay? And I know I keep telling you about it, but I'm telling you, he killed Mike. And he did it for you because he wanted you. And I know that's hard, and I know it hurts. But by God, I'm telling you, that's what happened. How old was Ansley then?
Baby.
Huh?
A baby.
Not even a year. He didn't care. I saw Deborah and I saw Mike the night before with Ansley at the mall. And that's the last time I ever saw him. He didn't care about you. He didn't care about Ansley. He only cares about himself. He made Mike disappear, and he was going to make you disappear today. And you have got to get that in your head. You don't ever have to tell me or anybody else about it. But at some point it needs to come out because he did it. I am telling you. I don't think you had anything to do with it, but he held that over you. And I'm sure at some point he told you something. And I'm not trying to get you in trouble because I don't think you did anything, Denise. But I'm telling you, he killed Mike and he was going to kill you and make you go away. You need to hear that and you need to hear it a lot. You were going to die today. You got lucky. Okay? Next time, it might be he catches Ansley and you, and he kills Ansley in front of you just to hurt you. And if you think he's not capable of that, think about the man who brought something to bury you with, who brought plastic, who brought bleach to cover his tracks. Why doesn't it make sense? He's nuts. He killed your husband.
But if he is nuts, that crazy, then again, I can't have an officer live with me 24/7. I can't. I'm not safe.
If he goes to prison for murder, you'll never see him again. He killed Mike. And he buried Mike where no one could ever find him. That is the truth. I'm wondering if he was taking you to the same place today that he buried Mike, because he's done it before. You have to wrap your mind around it, Denise. That is what he has done, and he's willing to do it again. He is going to kill you. And what we're talking about, Denise, I would never tell Deborah or your mom or anybody. This is just for me and you. I swear I would never tell them. But were you sleeping with Brian the day that Mike disappeared?
No.
It didn't happen until later?
No. Yeah.
Well, but he wanted you, there's no doubt about it.
even imagine. And I've never seen a person like this today.
You saw him in Atlanta. He's
Aversion.
falling against the wall.
Aversion.
Right.
Yeah, aversion.
And that was pretty
You're
early
right.
on.
You're right. And this is why I didn't want to do it this way. This is why I didn't want to set him off and make him mad. And coming here, he knows he can't trust me because I promised him over and over I wouldn't do this. And that's why I
To save
didn't
your
want to do
life.
this.
'Cause
Yes.
You knew he would kill you.
Yeah. Well, to get out of the situation, yeah, I mean, there was a gun there.
Years ago when Mike Phillips and those guys at FTLE wanted to talk to you and Brian, y'all went and talked to him one night.
I talked to Mike. I talked to Mike.
But they wanted you to come in and do an interview, and y'all didn't do it.
We did 2 interviews. We did interviews with, like, not local people. It was like federal people. I did one, he did one, and I think we did another one. But it was always in an attorney's office,
Mhm.
and I don't remember. Mike Phillips came to my house one time, and I talked with him there. But the official ones were with federal people, and it was more than one
With a lawyer.
at an attorney's office, and they recorded it all. From what I remember.
Your attorney or Brian's attorney?
Well, I mean, he's an attorney who is friends with the Winchesters.
Who set that up?
Who set up the meeting?
Well, who set the lawyer?
Oh, I would guess Marcus, because he's in that same little area where they all work together. I don't know, I don't really remember, but I do remember the location of the interviews were at the attorney's office, which is the same parking lot as Winchester Financial Group. Because I remember having to go there twice, I think, or 3 times.
What all they asked you, do you remember? Did y'all talk to him?
Yeah. We answered all these questions. I think there's a recording. I don't know. I don't remember. But I know it was definitely more than once. Because I think it was like me separate, him separate, and then us together. Maybe that was it. And I remember the location. But that's all I remember. And if Mike and them had contacted the attorney and asked him if we would meet with him, he might have said no. But I don't remember saying no to Mike, because I remember him coming to the house.
You think the attorney said, no, we're not going to talk to him?
Well, I don't know. I'm just saying that could have happened because but Mike, I mean, would come to the house. So I don't know. I don't know about that. All that I don't remember. But it should be recorded somewhere. I don't know. I cannot believe this happened. And Anne's like so upset.
And
I just want us to be safe, and I know at your house we are, but other than that, I mean, we go to work, we go to school.
a piece of paper, an injunction, or electronic monitoring doesn't stop me from sitting in a parking lot waiting for you to kill you.
So what am I going to do?
You're going to go forward with this and make sure that you continue telling the story and don't back off of it.
No.
And don't let him manipulate you into backing away or not testifying, because he's going to take it all the way.
But I told everything exactly how it happened. I did not exaggerate or lie.
I don't think you did either. And I'm glad you called me. I'm glad you didn't do what you told him you were going to do, because
It seemed like it could.
I don't know how you got away today.
I just kept praying.
I don't know how you got away. But in your mind, every time you think about feeling sorry for him, I want you to think about what he did, what he brought with him, and how calculating he was. Okay? You just got very, very fortunate today.
I know that. But I just don't want to go through that ever again.
That's why you got to keep going forward on this. And as you think about things, and
I
I know,
will.
I know it's hard. I can't
I
leave
will.
the mic thing alone, because I'm telling you,
I know.
Denise,
I'll
He-
start thinking about
he
all
not only did that, he choreographed the recovery of Mike's waiters. I was there for a week. And maybe that's what the fright is, that, oh, I'm going to get in trouble for that. Well, that's his doing. He did that. okay? But I'm telling you, he is so manipulative. He is a murderer. He killed Mike.
While the officer is clearly trying to get Denise to talk about Mike, what he is suggesting also happens to be in Denise's best interest from a legal perspective. Denise is not comprehending the fact that Brian will likely confess to Denise's role in Mike's disappearance after getting arrested for the kidnapping incident. The officer knows this. Everybody in the building knows this. Denise somehow doesn't. She is holding on to the hope of Brian going down without a fight. Her psychopathic tendencies are impeding her here. In her mind, she genuinely believes there's a significant possibility that Brian will not retaliate because she is not capable of the ability to understand and empathize with the feelings of another person. If Denise had followed the officer's suggestion of speaking about Mike, the outcome of this case could have turned out very differently. This will be explained in more detail later.
And I'm pretty sure the reason he was going to kill you today is he was afraid you was going to do or say something or had speculation. They found nothing when Mike disappeared. Nothing. That is unbelievable. He's calculating. He's cold. I would hate to know the confrontation between him and Mike. I'm sure it was at gunpoint. But Mike thinking he's a friend. But there's no doubt there was a confrontation. I just always wondered where, what, how, but it certainly wasn't the lake. What time was Mike supposed to go to the lake? I didn't even find out until 10 o'clock that night.
I have no idea. I don't know any of that right now. He was hunting in the morning, and he was going to go with a friend he had from work, a young kid. I can't think of his name right now. He's moved to Jacksonville. I don't know.
But I need you to wrap your mind around that, because I'm telling you, he's outside looking in. He was a part of that. And today was just an extension of who he is. He's not afraid to kill someone. And why he didn't kill you today was maybe it's a public place, or maybe you hit the right chord with him. Maybe you said exactly what he wanted to hear.
I was saying,
But I think it's more, it was where it was. And he doesn't want to get caught. He wants to live. He wants to keep doing what he's doing.
Well, that's why I don't think he's going to kill himself.
There's no way he's going to kill himself unless he gets cornered and realizes that it's over for me.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But he didn't come there to kill himself this morning. And it wasn't going to be kill myself or kill you and kill myself, because why would he bring the implements to bury you and cover up his tracks? It was there to murder you. That's a horrible thing to think about, but that's the truth. You need to.
I know, and what you're saying makes total sense. Yeah, it makes total sense. Well, then that makes me even more scared.
Denise doesn't budge, despite the competent strategy used against her and the seemingly perfect circumstance of having a brother-in-law perform the interrogation. The detective's final strategy is to increase the pressure and directly confront Denise.
We have never met. My name is Mike Levine. How you doing? Do you know that name at all?
No.
Okay. I'm with the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. Okay. I've literally known you, and I've known your family for many, 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 many years. Okay. The reason I say that is, I've been looking into Mike's disappearance. Okay. Literally dissected as much as I could about you, members of your family, Brian, Mike, and, his family. Worked with a lot of people, trying to figure out the whole scenario of his disappearance, and had to go back and literally reinvestigate a lot of things that was investigated before. And this has been an ongoing process for a long time. And you need to understand that, okay? I used to know your gate code by heart going in your neighborhood. I know your house very well. I know when you took the carpet on, the whole works. And then a whole lot I don't know, okay? I want to talk to you about a couple of things, and maybe you can fill in a couple of gaps for me. Can you do that for me?
I can try.
Okay. Obviously, the reason I'm here, I knew about what happened today. Okay. And like the other officer said, it's going to have to sink in that today was going to be your last day. Please let that sink in. When y'all were going towards CVS, it's from what I can understand, he wanted to turn around and go the other way.
He kept saying go to the roundabout, and I think he was wanting me to go back, but I wasn't really listening. I wasn't really listening. I was just trying to get to CVS.
Where do you think Mike's buried at?
Oh, I have no idea.
Any speculation on that?
On where he's buried?
Buried.
I mean, I believe.
You don't really believe he died on the lake?
I do.
Why?
I just always have. That's what I believe.
She admits that she thinks Mike died on the lake, but does not challenge the investigator's question about where he was buried. If Mike died in a boating accident or after getting attacked by alligators on the lake, then he would not be buried at all. Therefore, by comparing her own answers together, they don't make sense because she does not challenge the assumption that Mike is buried, despite agreeing that he likely died on the lake.
And I have, from when he was saying roundabout, I don't know, I talked with the last two people and I can't remember if he wanted me to turn left or right.
No, that's not what I'm talking about. Why do you think Mike perished in the lake?
Because
he didn't die in Lake Seminole, okay?
That's what I've always believed. That's what I believe.
And why?
I've never been proven anything different.
Well, is there been any proof if he would have perished in that lake, he would have been found. Okay. There's never been a person that has fallen over or whatever that they've never found except for Mike. I mean, that's literally, it's an impossibility that he died in that lake.
I guess that's just what I believe.
Really?
Yeah.
Were you and I guess you, Mike, Kathy, and Brian, y'all were pretty close before Mike disappeared, right?
Yeah.
How close were y'all?
I mean, I would say we talked pretty much every day. We were very close.
Yeah.
I'm still very close with Kathy.
Yeah, I know that. I mean, again, we researched, trips y'all used to make to Orlando and some other stuff. Apparently you were really close, okay? Do you know what I'm talking about?
Me and Kathy she's texting me right now, so we're still very close.
Okay. If I say we're totally aware of all the videos, you probably know what I'm talking about.
If you say what?
The videos?
I would have to see them.
Oh, no, that's not going to happen. But you're clueless when I say videos.
Yeah.
You, Kathy, and Brian?
I would have to see them.
Yeah. You have no idea what I'm talking about. Don't say you've got to see them.
No, I'm just starting to feel very uncomfortable.
Okay.
But
I've been uncomfortable for a long time because we needed some things on this case.
Right.
And we were hoping one day that either Brian or you maybe could fill in some of the gaps there, fill in a piece of the puzzle.
Right. But I guess right now I need to focus on this and what happened this morning, and I want to get this restraining order done by 5:00. And I want me and my daughter to be safe, and that's what I'm focused on. There's
no doubt that Brian's going to be located and put in jail. So I would imagine he's not going to immediately be bonded out under the circumstances and the crimes that he has committed. Okay.
I don't know. But I just want to get this restraining order done so that I can have a little peace for tonight with my daughter. That's what I'm focused on.
Well, if he is arrested, in the next few hours, which I'm sure is going to happen. Leon County is very good about finding people. Okay, that's going to happen. When Brian is arrested, which will happen, he is going to probably provide another side of whatever happened today. You're aware of that?
This morning?
Yeah.
I have no idea what he's going to say.
Yeah, what if he starts talking about the past, way in the past?
Then he might, I don't know. I have no idea what he's going to say.
Yeah, no idea.
No.
What if he starts talking about,
I hope he admits
the
it.
disappearance of Mike?
I hope he admits this morning. I hope he admits what he did. If they ask him about Mike, I have no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
But I guess what I'm saying is about the Mike situation that you want to talk about. I don't want to talk about this right now.
Right. Would you talk about it later?
I don't want to talk about this right now. I want to get this settled first.
This is settled.
It's not settled to me, though. I have not gone down. I have not filed the restraining order, and that's what is pressing on me so bad. So I understand that you want to talk about this, but this is what I want to do. This is what has to be done.
Yeah.
Today.
You got some time. We're almost done. All right. Well, you know why it's so important to talk to you about Mike. This was your husband. He simply vanished. Hopefully you still have an interest in that.
Well, again, this is my priority right now, and I'm not comfortable talking about this right now. I've had an unbelievable day, and
I know you have.
this is it's just all too much right now. I really want to focus on it. And I'm worried about me and my daughter and where we're going to live and how we're going to be safe. I mean, I don't even have a dog.
Yeah. Well, what we have seen, we've seen a side of Mike, not Mike, but Brian, that we knew was there, and it surfaced again. Okay? Because again, we've kind of tracked his history. And we also know, Mike vanishes. So.
Well, I myself have never seen anything like what I saw this morning. Never.
Do you think he's responsible for Mike's disappearance?
I do not, and I never have. I would have never married him if I thought that. I would have never wanted so bad to have children with him. In my mind and in my heart, no. David is my brother-in-law, and he was just in here talking to me about trying to get me to understand that, that my life was in danger today.
Absolutely.
And then having me to look back on that whole situation now from a different point of view. And I'm definitely going to do that. But do I believe right here in this moment that he had anything to do with that? Absolutely not.
But not.
Does that mean that I'm not going to process this and then go back? Of course I am. But I've got to process this first. And I know you understand that.
I'm going to leave on this note. I was hoping you could fill in some of the pieces of that puzzle. You haven't. We arrest Brian, he might.
This is not a strategy by the investigator. This statement simply represents the reality of the situation Denise finds herself in.
Okay?
Yeah, I have no idea.
Following this interrogation, the investigators reached out to Brian's ex-wife, Katherine Thomas, and asked her to help with the investigation as a confidential source. Katherine agreed to cooperate and was a valuable contributor to the investigation because she happened to still be on good terms with Denise. Katherine told detectives that after the kidnapping incident, Denise told her, "Tell Marcus to tell Brian I'm not talking." Investigators wanted a way to verify that this statement was actually said because it likely refers to Denise wanting Brian to know that she kept quiet about Mike when speaking to police. The investigators came up with the plan of recording a phone call in which Katherine confronts Denise in regards to a subpoena. Katherine didn't actually get served the subpoena. The plan was to pretend that she did and that she would have to talk about Mike's disappearance while being under oath. This strategy will be used so that Katherine can bring up the subject of Mike's disappearance without raising Denise's suspicion.
Hang on 1 second. I just got in the car. I just stopped to get coffee. Okay, so I am it's starting to mist again. This is going to be like a miserable drive. So I'm kind of freaking out about this subpoena.
I'm sure. When is it?
It's February 22nd. Here's my problem. I'm going to get upset here, but my problem is I know they're wanting to talk to me about Mike. I've always just pretended like I don't know anything. And
What do you know?
Do you remember back when all of that happened with you and Brian and Chuck in Atlanta?
Yeah.
Well, Brian called me crying and mad. Brian had figured out that you were cheating on him with Chuck. And he just told me about Mike.
What did he say? He called you upset about Chuck, and then he wanted to talk about Mike?
He was mad at you.
Mm-hmm.
And so he told me about what happened to Mike.
Well, I would love to know what happened to Mike. He never told me.
Brian told me that y'all planned it.
Planned what? Oh my gosh.
And Marcus showed up later that afternoon, telling me how I would have to take this to my grave, how my life would be ruined, how I would never be able to start over.
So Marcus knew? And when you said Brian said y'all, you're talking about me and Brian or Marcus or who?
You and Brian. And
that Marcus is involved? I mean, obviously, if he came and talked to you.
Here's the deal. Here is the deal. Hang on. Somebody's texting me.
Yeah, that's pretty major, especially with Marcus involved.
Well, I mean, I know that you know something, Denise, because whenever I was going out to see Marcus, you're like, tell Marcus to tell Brian I'm not talking.
Yeah.
And I knew what that meant.
Well, that's why, because what they've been doing is they've been lying to me and they've been lying to them. And so they're playing everybody against each other.
Here's the thing. I don't even care about all that anymore because time has moved on. Mike is in heaven. So here is my problem. Here is my problem. All these years, anytime anything ever came up about Mike, I just sit with my mouth shut.
This has nothing to do with you.
If I lie, whenever they ask me, do you know what happened to Mike? If I lie, then now what happens? And then when I go home, how do I explain that? How do I explain that I just decided to forget it?
You're saying that years later, Brian told you something, Marcus came to you, so two people came to you to talk to you about this years after it happened. That has nothing to do with you and anything that you did or anything that you didn't do. It doesn't.
Well, what am I supposed to do when they ask me? What am I supposed to do?
I don't know. I mean, if all this is tied to this guy that he talked to, then I'm guessing he wanted to talk to you because you were friends with us. But but again, it has nothing to do with your family. Nothing. They weren't even around then.
In the hands of the right prosecutor, this phone call is gold for two reasons. After being confronted about having a role in the murder of her ex-husband, Denise's immediate reaction is to question whether Marcus knew. This is because Denise's pact with Brian was that no one would know.
Ruined how I would never be able to start over.
So Marcus knew? And when you said Brian said y'all, you're talking about me and Brian or Marcus or who?
You and Brian. And
that Marcus is involved? I mean, obviously, if he came and talked to you.
It's not about what she said, it's about what she didn't say. It's unlikely that an innocent person would react with no aggression whatsoever towards an accusation of this magnitude from a close friend. Denise agrees to Katherine's suggestion that Denise said, tell Marcus to tell Brian I'm not talking. Remember, following Denise's interrogation, she stopped speaking to Marcus or Brian, which explains why Denise made this statement to Katherine.
That you know something, Denise, because whenever I was going out to see Marcus, you're like, tell Marcus to tell Brian I'm not talking.
Yeah.
And I knew what that meant.
Well, that's why, because what they've been...
Now that Denise acknowledged that she did indeed make that statement to Katherine, it can be argued that Denise was referring to the murder of Mike Williams. Regardless if this is true or not, this can be presented to a jury as such. What followed in this investigation is exactly what the detectives predicted. Brian was arrested for the kidnapping incident, and Denise's description of the kidnapping was accurate. Denise hoped that it would end there, but to no one's surprise, it didn't. Brian was willing to testify about what happened to Mike Williams and Denise's involvement in exchange for not being sentenced to life in prison for the armed kidnapping incident. As part of the agreement, he receives immunity and cannot be prosecuted for anything he says in his confession. This was a deal of a lifetime for Brian, but prosecutors agreed to follow through with it because it was the only option available to close the case of Mike Williams. Brian was sentenced to 20 years in prison for the kidnapping as part of this agreement. The conditions were that Brian would lead law enforcement to where the remains were, and if Brian was caught lying in any part of his testimony, the entire statement can be used against him, and he can be prosecuted for first-degree murder by his own confession. Therefore, Brian has the ultimate motive to tell the truth in the following statement. We can safely assume that everything he says here is the actual truth.
All right, please introduce yourself to the jurors.
Brian Winchester. Another scenario that we came up with was Mike and I going on a hunting trip together, and there being an accident. Denise liked this idea because I don't know how to word it exactly, but we could feel better about ourselves if there was a chance that he could make it out of it. I think there was even talk about, well, it'll be up to God what happens and not us. It won't be a murder. It'll be an accident. It's kind of screwed up thinking, but the plan with Mike was that I would meet him at a gas station. I met him there. I had told him that we were going to go to a secret special spot to go hunting. I was in the back of the boat driving, and he was in the front. And we headed out. We got to that area that I knew was a deep area. I basically stopped the boat and got him to stand up. And when he did, I pushed him into the water. So he was in the water. He was struggling. What I eventually realized was he was taking the waders and the jacket off. And he got those off, and that area of the lake had a lot of dead trees that come up out of the water, and there's a lot of stumps that come up out of the water. And he swam over to one of those stumps and held on to it. He was panicking. I was panicking. None of this was going how I thought it was going to go. He started to yell, and I didn't know how to get out of that situation. And so I had my gun in the boat, so I loaded my gun, and I made one or two circles around, and I ended up circling closer towards him, and he was in the water. And as I passed by, I shot him in the head.
Williams, we, the jury, find as follows as to count one of the indictment. The defendant is guilty of conspiracy to commit first-degree murder. As to count two, we, the jury, find the defendant is guilty of first-degree murder.
Denise was originally sentenced to life in prison. The first-degree murder was later overturned in an appeal by Denise's attorney since there was no tangible evidence in the trial that Denise helped carry out the actual commission of the murder. But the conspiracy to commit murder conviction was upheld. To put it in plain English, this means that Denise will only have to serve 30 years in prison. After spending some time in prison, she attempted to have her sentence shortened by making this statement.
I've spent most of my life caring for myself and my loved ones, but wondering why I never seemed to have real joy or lasting happiness. But I realize now that I only gave out of my excess, and I only served others when it was convenient for me. These years away have opened my eyes to the truth of my selfishness and pride that I did live in most of my life. Thankfully, that was opened my eyes to the needs of those around me. It has been both heartbreaking and humbling to hear stories from each precious lady that I met in prison. I'm striving every day to turn this nightmare into something good. These years in prison have allowed me to find my purpose, which is serving incarcerated women and doing everything I can to help them not return to prison. I strive to honor Mike and our daughter every day by meeting the needs of the women I live with, by sharing with them my story, my failures and my bad choices, in hopes that they will make better decisions to go on and live successful lives and to be productive members of society. Today, Your Honor, I humbly request a sentence of 21 months. I also make a commitment today to you, Your Honor, to my family and to myself, that I will honor Mike's memory by fulfilling my purpose to serve incarcerated women to the best of my ability each day of the rest of my life, both inside and outside of prison. And I thank you very much for this time and for your consideration.
She was denied and will have to finish her 30-year prison sentence. Mike and Denise's daughter was awarded all assets of her late father's estate and insurance claims. Denise kept nothing. Brian Winchester is still serving his 20-year prison sentence. Cheryl Williams, who is Mike Williams' mother, knew from the start. She never once believed that her son died in a boating accident or got eaten by alligators. She thankfully got the opportunity to witness justice being served.
When I went to the lake, God told me Mike was not in Lake Seminole. He didn't drown. He didn't get eaten by alligators. I had to find him and bring him home. For the next 17 years, I made telephone calls, put up missing person signs, compiled my notes into a book, and had people post on social media for me. I wrote 2,600 letters to the governor of Florida asking for help in finding my son. They told me Mike drowned and got eaten by alligators, and there was no need for an investigation. They laughed at me and called me crazy. 9 months after Mike disappeared, his wife, Denise, told me if I continued to seek a criminal investigation, I would lose Ansley, my granddaughter, Mike's only child. I knew that she knew where Mike was or what happened to him. I am a fighter, not a victim. I love Ansley, but Mike was my son. I became even more determined to find the truth. Not only did Denise kill my son, she stole my granddaughter, Ansley, Mike's only child. For her entire life, Ansley was raised in a house with the murderers of her father, while being denied the love of her father's family. She was told that Grandmama Cheryl was crazy and would hurt her. I have had no relationship with her since she was 5.5 years old. For the rest of my life, when I try to sleep at night, I will see my son clinging to a tree stump in Lake Seminole in the dark, knowing that his best friend is trying to kill him. I hear his voice screaming for help. I wasn't there to help him. It will haunt me forever. My son's horrific death demands justice. With today's sentencing of Denise Merrell, Williams, Winchester, I believe justice will have been served. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.